Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri. I'm here for New Shelves Books, and we come together every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern to talk about book marketing, publishing, and the business of being an author. We do answer your questions live, and you're welcome to join us any week simply by going to newshelves.com/FAF. And we also do accept emails. So if you can't join us live for any reason, you can just email us at info@newshelves.com. We will hold your questions up, answer them live, and then put them up on our YouTube channel on a replays, which is simply youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. Follow us for the replays here, as well as publishing tips and industry news. So we have some questions going in that have been dropped in our chat. We're going to answer those first. We have some industry updates going on and lots of new things happening lately, and especially this week. So first question here is, what are your thoughts on the publishing industry surge leveling back out after the pandemic? I think that is a great question, Danielle. So what we saw during the pandemic is everyone was home. Everyone kind of slowed down a little bit. And so there was this surge of people writing, especially, I will say, people who typically have full-time jobs that are busy, a lot of professionals. So we're talking about people writing memoirs, business books. There was a lot of that. There was also people writing more fiction. And so there's this big surge of a lot of people publishing. We also saw a huge increase in book sales, the biggest in years as far as a jump, because what happened is everyone was at home. And once you finished Tiger King, what else was there to watch, right? So everyone started reading a little bit more. Kids were home. We were getting them to read more. There was all sorts of stuff going on. And so what we found is that the numbers for sales really jumped up, along with, of course, publishing. Now, on the publishing end, we've already seen this slowing down. In traditional publishing, we have seen the traditional publishing houses have slowed down their acquisitions already. We're seeing that, especially in nonfiction. I will say adult fiction is one of these steady growers, or at least staying steady with years past. The last couple of years staying pretty steady right now. However, nonfiction is really slowing down for business, and especially for memoir. And sales it's in response to sales, because the sales are going down right now. Now, when I say that, it's only down like 4% from last year, but it's certain categories that are seeing more of a downtick than others. So for example, children's and young adult titles are down over, I believe, over 10% from this time last year. And it's been a steady decline since everything kind of opened up. Kids went back to school. So we are seeing a decline in children and teen titles. We are also seeing a decline in nonfiction and business in print. However, it's really important to notice that nonfiction in business, while it's lower in print, is slowly climbing for digital assets, eBooks, and especially audiobooks. Audiobooks for nonfiction business, not so much memoir, but business. Self-help has been growing massively for audiobooks. What is climbing on all platforms just about is adult fiction. So it seems that those who kind of rejuvenated their love for reading during the pandemic and during closures, that has stayed around, and people are continuing to read more than we have maybe in the past 10 years or so. We've seen that kind of stay pretty steady, and the sales for adult fiction is also holding steady. And I think what'll happen is what always happens, is that a lot of people like to think of publishing as like growth, like, okay, well, if readers start reading now, they're going to read even more in the next year, and then even more in the next year. And that's just not true. Publishing, more than almost any other industry, publishing is an industry that has ebbs and it has flows. So we definitely will see some rising tides, and then they'll go back out. Same thing with book sales. If you've been an author for a long time, you'll notice that some months you do fantastically, that you've got so many books sold. And then there's some months that are just dry months. And that is because it's just so consumer driven. It is based on so many different things. And so I think we are definitely seeing one of those times where we're kind of ebbing out. I believe that it'll come back, but I do think that we're leveling off a little bit. And I think that this is why actually it's been in the news recently, and it's even been talked about, like Publishers Marketplace has been talking about kind of the income of the average person who works in publishing, whether it be an author, a literary agent, but that it tends to be actually low, and that a lot of people who are authors, who are in the industry, tend to do it as a second job or as a part-time job, kind of income or lower income, because it is so dependent on reader habits. It's not like when you work in a supermarket, people have to eat. Even if prices go up, even if we get busy, we've got to eat. And so you still see that pretty steady. But when we're talking about reader and reader habits, it depends on literally what's going on in the world. It depends on what's trending in media. It depends on the time of year and if people are taking vacations and all sorts of things. And so it is one of those industries that can have really good years and much harder years. And I think that we're, again, leveling out. Our numbers for book sales and for publishing are actually higher than they were pre-pandemic, pre-2020, but it's not that big surge that we were seeing. And I think there's still a lot of space for authors, for publishers, for writing. I am seeing in the nonfiction sphere, I am seeing where people like yourself, Danielle, who are ghostwriters, are actually moving a little bit more from full books, memoirs, and full books. And a lot of ghostwriters, there's more need at the moment that I'm seeing for articles. So for businesses, for brands who want to put out content, but don't necessarily have the time or the ability, the skill to put out well-written content. So I'm seeing a lot of need for ghostwriters and for written content. Now, a lot of that, we're seeing people leaning on AI a little bit, but we know that AI is not, number one, you can't just do AI and put it up as your own work. You're gonna get into some type of trouble somewhere, but also AI is not reliable as it's a starter place for some people, but it's certainly not a finished professional product. So I think we are seeing it come out a little bit, but I think it will level off. I don't think it's anything to be scared of, or, oh my gosh, books are going away, publishing is going away. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that it's continuing to grow, but in different areas than we've seen maybe in the last year or two. Mike's asking about being nervous about sending query letters. So going for that traditional publishing route, trying to find an agent and a publisher. And the question is how to make or break, or how make or break are they when submitting a manuscript query? So query letters are really important. And the reason why is because your query letter is one of those things that it's the introduction. It makes the difference of whether or not an agent wants to see your actual book. So your query letter really should have the same care and attention as your first 10 pages have, because it really matters whether or not they look any further. So I have lots of agent friends, and they open their queries and they will get 1,000 emails in a week of queries, people looking, to publish. And so they move through those queries pretty quickly. Some of them will read pages from just about everyone. A lot of them don't. So your query letter it's your resume, essentially. It's what opens the door and can get you further. So it is important. However, you shouldn't be nervous. You're probably going to send out the average author, I would say, that's successful, that gets an agent, they're sending out 60 to 100 queries at least. So I do think that it's important. You should really work on it and make sure you get your comps right. Make sure that you build the anticipation for your book, why it's different than what's already currently on the marketplace, and also the marketability and the sales power of it. So I think those are all important things, but really it's also tone. If you in your book are kind of funny and sarcastic, then it's okay to put that in your query letter. If your book is, very nonfiction and it's very focused on a topic, it's okay to let your personality and the topic of the book shine through in your letter. But ultimately, you put it out, you wait for feedback, and then you adjust. And I think that's one of the things is that sometimes you'll get feedback going, I loved it. But if you're putting out a lot of queries and getting no requests for pages, you may want to adjust your query letter. But it's like most things, you don't know until you get some data back so you can analyze it. So don't be so nervous that you don't start querying and then you hold yourself back from the chance of getting an agent. You really do have to put yourself out there. Make sure that you're paying attention. If you're using Query Tracker, make sure you're paying attention to the requirements the agent sets forth. If they say they're only looking for certain genres and your book falls outside of that, I don't care how much you like them, do not query them. They're not looking for that. And some of the things when agents are putting out instructions, some of them are like a test. Did you listen to the test? Sometimes it's like, they'll have it on their website. If you're querying, in the subject line, put purple, literally the word purple. And it's not because they really care. It's because they're looking to see if you're going to follow instructions, because that's kind of a clue on how well they can work with you. And so I think it's really important to pay attention to what the agent ask for. There are some kind of standard things as far as the query letter. Some agents will want the first 10 pages. Some will want it as a Word document. Some will ask for it to be pasted in an email. So you really do need to pay attention to that in a query letter. And also, be human. If you want to make a connection with them, that's one of the things that's talked about a lot in querying, is that, in your opening line, you kind of want to make a connection, but don't just flatter them. Don't just, you're amazing, unless you actually believe that and you've researched them and you know who they rep or something like that. Don't blow smoke up their butt. They will know, and it's just silly. Yeah. So Walt says, I cited query instructions once in a query. I think it's why the agent responded, even though he wasn't interested. So that's kind of funny. Walt is saying, per your instructions, I am including XYZ. It is just a nod to say that you're not copy and pasting to every agent you find, that you're taking the time and respecting their time by doing what they asked. But definitely don't let it hold you back. As far as query and resources, Jane Friedman has a great, I believe it's an article on her website about querying, which I highly recommend. It's a little bit older, but it was updated this year. So how to, the complete guide to query letters is what's here. So I'll drop that link here for anyone who's watching on Facebook or watching the replay. You can simply just Google Jane Friedman query letter and a bunch of stuff will come up. The other thing that I would highly recommend, if you aren't so sure about your query letter in your first pages, there is a Writer's Digest class that gets done every couple of months, and Talcott Notch, which is where Amy Collins now works with her literary agent work now, and they do a first 10 pages boot camp, and they look at your query letter and everything like that. And I believe that they have a first 10 pages class coming up, and those are through Writer's Digest, so you can always look for those. I've heard a lot of great things about people who go through those courses, so I would definitely look into that if you're feeling like you need some more support, or like not just great advice, but someone to look at your query and your pages and see how it goes. Let's see. Well, Caroline, I've been querying so long, I have snail mail rejections. That's like gonna go, like, you could probably sell those now. Keep them. But yes, and you will. There's a lot, they have a lot of people querying them. There will be a lot of no's. Doesn't mean that your book is not worth it. Doesn't mean that readers wouldn't love it. Sometimes it's simply a good fit. Sometimes an agent will say no, simply, they may even say, I love your work, but I'm going to pass because it's not a good fit for me. And sometimes that means your book falls more towards romance and their connections are more in sci-fi and fantasy, or, that kind of thing. So sometimes they really do love your work. They just don't think they can sell it with their own connections. And if they don't sell it, they don't get paid. You're not happy. So it's simply not a good fit. And so even if it's fantastic, you are going to get some no's. Don't let that deter you. And of course, there is always there's a lot of authors choosing, not just being forced to, but choosing self-publishing or indie publishing because it better fits their goals. Let's see. Question. My publisher just gave me a PDF advanced copy to request blurbs. I have a couple of people who agreed already, and lucky some are big names like Steve Martin. Congratulations. And some I'm going to ask who don't know me at all and have to hunt down an email for them. The publisher said the deadline is October 20th. This seems impossibly short. It is really short, less than a month for blurbs and endorsements, especially for big names. That's really, really short. Typically, I try to give 2 to 3 months when possible. So in the request, do I say they can just glance at the book? The book is heavy on visuals and a fast read. Here is the thing. Number one, congratulations, because that's huge and I'm so excited for you. But the other thing is when asking for blurbs, there are some tips. So if there's a novel, it's a little bit different. But if you have a nonfiction book or if you have a book that's heavy on images, it can be helpful to guide them to certain places. Here is the PDF advanced copy. I think you'll be particularly interested in pages, blah, 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 through, 5 to 50, or particularly interested in chapter 10, which, if that's all you have time to read, should give you, plenty to be able to do a blurb. So sometimes I think that guiding them to where you want them to go, or simply saying, I understand you may not have time to read the whole thing. Feel free to glance through. And if you have questions about the book, or if you need a heavy synopsis, I'm happy to give it to you. So at least giving them the option. And I have worked with authors. Some of them will say, I never give a blurb unless I read every word in the book. Some of them will say, depending on how well I know them and they know the author and certain things, some of them will say, what do you want me to say? Or like, does this work? And it comes like a minute later. So I know they didn't really read the book. They just know that it's going to be good, or they've already heard enough about it. So I think it's important to give them options, to give them shortcuts if available, and to let them know you realize, first and foremost, I would absolutely say, I realize this is short notice and I'm sorry I can't give you more time. My publisher is asking for this by October 20th. If you can do that, I would be so appreciative. So like, call it out. Don't just say like, hey, and if you can get that to me by October 20th, tell them you realize it's short notice and thank them for their time and all of that. And then I just let them do it. Some of them are just going to read through it. Some of them will pick and choose different parts. But again, giving them the shortcut options, if you can, I think is important. And sometimes they'll say, hey, I really would love to give you this, but I can't get it until November 15th. At that point, absolutely, I understand. Thank you. Use that blurb in your marketing, use it in other ways. You can only do what you can do because people have busy schedules and they're essentially doing you a favor. But those are kind of my tips for giving them, options. And some of them may say, sure, but what do I write? And then that, if they do that, you should have some suggestions ready of blurbs that they could use, or things that they could say, or example of other blurbs, so that, there's some work in there. And I know it's one of those things a lot of people say, like, I hate doing this. I don't like asking people for favors, and you want to like kind of give them an out. And ultimately, people are only going to do it if they want to do it, especially bigger names. They get asked for stuff all the time. So just make it as easy as possible, be understanding, and put it right out there that what you're asking for is a favor. And of course, appreciate them for that favor. So those are kind of the things that I would be doing. One of the things that's an industry update that I wanted to talk to you guys about is there's a lot of misinformation out there right now talking about how Amazon KDP is now allowing pre-orders, and that is not correct. What Amazon has just included in the KDP dashboard is a scheduled launch, and it is different. What they are allowing authors to do now, it's in beta testing, but I believe beta just ended. So what they're allowing authors to do now is to upload their information and to pick the day they'd like their book to go live. But if I upload my book now and say I'd like it to go live on October 15th, my sales page does not show up until October 15th. So it means I can schedule the back end items so that it launches on the day I want it to without me going in, physically signing in and pushing a button on October 15th. But it does not create a pre-order sales page for your print book. Your ebook, you can do a pre-order. That's been around for a long time. But for the print books, it is not a pre-order. Amazon KDP is not offering pre-orders. Authors who are using print on demand still need to use IngramSpark for their print pre-orders, but there is a scheduled launch, which means simply that you can schedule your book to go live on a specific day within 90 days. There are, of course, some rules around that on whether or not you can do it, but I think that is something that's kind of been running the rumor mill this week for KDP. So I wanted to clarify, no pre-orders at the moment. Scheduled launch is allowed. So if you don't see that in your account, you might see it soon. It's a step that's showing up on the first page when you go to set up a print book. So if you see something new and you're like, that's what it is, you can schedule your book, or you can do what you've always done and just choose that your published date and your launch date are the same, which means when you push the publish button, it goes into review. It can take up to 72 hours, although most of the time the same day, and then your book will go live. So I think that's really important, because even some very, very savvy people in our industry who are up to date and all the things, and I respect them so much, even they have tripped up and used the word pre-order, which caused a lot of confusion. So I wanted to clarify that. Another thing going on over at IngramSpark is IngramSpark does currently, you guys know, they got rid of their upload fee months ago. So there's been no upload fee, but if your book has been up for over 60 days and you need to update your file, so you're changing your price and you need a new price barcode and you've got to upload that, or you had something in your interior you wanted to update, they were charging a $25 revision fee. That is still in place. However, there is a code right now, and it's good through the end of October. It's good till the end of October to get a free revision, so you don't have to pay that $25. So if you've got revisions on IngramSpark, now would be a great time to do it. And the code, I just put it in the chat, is for you, all caps, all one word, FORYOU, for you. So if you need to update anything on your IngramSpark for your books, for uploading files, if you need a new interior, update your cover, price barcode, anything like that, now would be a great time to do that and save some money. So those are kind of going on right now. And then a question we got in here was about library pricing and how the library model works for sales for eBooks and audiobooks. Years ago, eBooks and audiobooks would go with a licensing fee. So if I was allowing a library to use my ebook and rent it out at the library for checkouts, I would charge a licensing fee, typically for a year. Sometimes it could be 6 months or longer, but a year is normal. So a year, and it would be a higher price. So let's say it was $300 for the year for the rights to check out my ebook, and it was one checkout, one user. So it kind of mimicked a physical copy being checked out. If someone checked it out, no one else could have it. They had to wait in line. But as you know, if I got it on Tuesday, listened to the whole audiobook or read the whole ebook and returned it on Friday, the library could check it out again, and they could check it out as many times as they want within a year for that one licensing fee. But that's kind of changing because with new options like draft to digital, now working with Overdrive and indie publishing coming in, it's changed a little bit to where they do still have the licensing options. However, that was getting a little costly for libraries because they could take a chance on an ebook and pay $300 for the year, but then maybe only 2 people checked it out, or maybe it wasn't as popular as they thought it would be, and their budget disappeared pretty quickly, and then they didn't really get their use out of it. So that brought on the cost per checkout model. And the cost per checkout model is a little bit different in the sense that when you price your book, you are pricing it with the knowledge that it may go into a catalog, but you only get paid when your book is checked out. And the pricing here is a little bit confusing for people because what do you price your book? You'll hear things for library pricing for ebooks and digital assets. Like I said, $300 for a year. And then you'll have people say, oh no, it's just 2 times your retail amount. And this is where the confusion comes in. When it's cost per checkout, it is very standard that your digital asset, your ebook, your audiobook will be priced for library pricing at 2 to 3 times the retail price. So if my ebook is typically $10, my library price would be $20 or $30. And the reason why that is because with the cost per checkout model, it assumes 10 checkouts. So every time if a library then catalogs my book, here's the thing with cost per checkout, they can say, yeah, we'll put your book in the catalog. They don't pay anything. They don't pay anything until the book is checked out, which means it's less risk for them, which makes them more likely to include new authors, indie authors, or someone who maybe has a niche topic. So that's a good thing. But with the cost per checkout model, you don't get paid until someone checks out your book. But when they check out your book, you get paid 1/10 of your library price. So if your retail price for an ebook is $10, you make your library price $30 and someone checks out your ebook, you get paid $3. So that is how it works. So it's cost per checkout. Now, the benefits again are that libraries aren't out so much money. They are more likely to take a chance on new authors. But on the author side, the benefit is if 10 people read it, if 10 people check it out, you make $30. But what's also nice is it's not dependent on someone returning the book. They can just keep checking it out. So if your book goes viral and suddenly 500 people want to check it out, they can check it out 500 times and you then make $3 times 500. So you actually can make a lot more if your book does go viral and get checked out a bunch. And it also makes assets available more quickly so people aren't waiting in a long queue to get your book. So I know that has brought a lot of questions about the pricing for books because 330 is very, very different. And that's where the discrepancy comes. Is some bigger trade publishers still work on a licensing model, but most indie upload places. So if you're uploading directly to Kobo for Overdrive, if you're going to draft digital for Overdrive, all of these places are based on a cost per checkout model. And that is why the recommended price is going to be 2 to 3 times your retail price. In the line with licensing at libraries, does New Shelves handle book to film licensing options? So New Shelves does not handle book to film licensing options. Typically that would be a rights agent. So we actually had Anna Termini on a couple of weeks ago talking about subsidiary rights, and among them is film licensing. So that's not something we do. It's typically done through a subsidiary right agent, or in some cases, the author will handle it themselves. Sometimes they'll just get offered a deal to have their book optioned for film or licensed for film. And sometimes they will actually pitch directly to places because some allow direct pitches and some do not. Also important to know. Netflix, for example, only takes pitches from agents. They do not take direct pitches from authors or anyone else. Hallmark, however, sometimes will take direct pitches. So it just depends on the network However, even then, if you are pitching your own book, so if you are pitching it and you get interest from a film agency or a network, it's really important that you then work with an entertainment lawyer to make sure that you are covered, that you are getting paid for your work. And so that's more in a different direction than New Shelves goes. Now, I will say we have quite a few clients who do have film options or even live films. Barbara Hinsky, a longtime client of mine, currently has a book that was just adapted for Hallmark. This is her second Hallmark adaptation, and that just came out this month into film. So we do have lots of clients, both indie and trade, who have film options and licensing, but we did not do that for them. In some cases, we have helped with log lines, we've helped with the marketing piece or the branding piece, but as far as the actual licensing and the professional aspects there, we do not handle that. It's outside of our scope, and we are not lawyers, and so we cannot give legal advice for those sorts of things. And of course, agents just, they fill a different role professionally than we fill here. So great question though. Other things that are showing up in the industry, of course, more and more AI. OpenAI has more lawsuits where some really big names have been suing OpenAI. And guys, we're not going to get away from it. I just expect that there's going to be news about AI and changes in AI and how it's affecting publishing for the next months, possibly years, because so much is just coming up about how it's working, how it's not working. So that's going to continue to make the news, and it's going to, just make a lot of difference. We are seeing a lot of shifts in publishing. I will say Chapters Indigo, which of course is based in Canada, we've seen they had a new CEO for a couple of months. The CEO left very quickly. The old CEO came out of retirement, is back at Chapters Indigo. We're seeing changes for editors and the higher ups in trade publishing in the big five. Of course, we're seeing sales, a sales push towards Simon & Schuster and all sorts of things. So lots of changes in the industry. The Writers Association that has been on strike for months believe that they have come to a deal, so that is kind of in the works, but it looks like that strike will come to a close sooner rather than later. Spot on. I think it was Anna Termini who said it'll probably be October or November until that strike ends, and she was spot on. That's definitely what we're seeing. So hopefully that does follow through, and the writer's strike will end in October, which of course means going back to film and TV, because film and TV optioning has been really hard to non-existent over the last several months since summertime, because the writers have been on strike. And so there has been a lot of backup of content, but also actors in solidarity were not allowed or were not willing to promote different things, or they were not filming. So lots of hold up there in the industry as the writers, really fought for fair wages and working environment, all of that. So we're excited to see that there might be an end to that, and hopefully it's one that is a positive end. Let's see. Oh boy, I've been getting phone calls galore about my first novel. I'm going to give a call back next week. Any advice beyond no, I'm not going to pay money? My advice is, if they called you and you didn't call them first, don't call them back. It is spam, especially calling. I will say, if it is a legitimate, hey, we want to do something for your book, typically they're always going to reach out during email, not phone number. They don't have your phone number. So I wouldn't personally call them back. Everyone is just asking for money. If they're saying that they can republish your first book, or they think that they could sell your first book, it is typically going to be a scam. They are asking for money. They're going to say, yeah, let us republish your book. It'll be $5,000. And they're literally just going to put out the same book as before. It's not going to help your book sell. So be very wary of that. It's really unfortunate how many predators we have out there in the industry. I mean, it makes people very wary, which I understand, but man, there's a lot of predators out there. And so my policy is and has always been, if you reach out to them, they're probably a little more trustworthy. But if they are reaching out to you, especially by phone, if they're reaching out to you and you've never heard of them, it's probably a spam, and be very, very wary of that. It's just too bad that that is the case, but it is. All right. I just received Amazon notice that one ebook sold 2 months ago in the UK. I earned only 6 cents. Can I go into Amazon and change the ebook cost for just the United Kingdom to earn more royalty? I am going to guess, so that's not normal, Vicky. When you are setting up your ebook, you actually see how much you make on royalty, and it is based on your price, and it's based for everything. So let's say your ebook is priced at $3.99 and your royalty in the US is going to be, I don't know, $3.06 in the US, then typically that's just converted. So your $3.99 price is auto converted into pounds for the UK, and your price, depending on whatever the conversion rate from the US dollar to the UK pound, is typically how your book is priced, and your royalty falls in line with that. So if you had a really low income, I would look to see and make sure it wasn't during a discount period. Was your book on a 99-cent discount at that time? Were you running a BookBub? Something along those. And also make sure that you're looking at the difference between a book sold and your Kindle Unlimited page reads, because Kindle Unlimited page reads are not very much per page read. So that can be a really low amount if someone in the UK only read a couple of pages on Kindle Unlimited. Yep. If it was during, the thing about BookBub or discounts or ebook promotions is they're fantastic. You can sell a ton of books. It can get you more reviews. It can jumpstart your sales. But the thing is that if you're, putting your book to 99 cents, 99 cents, if your book's through KDP for Amazon, what happens is that you can only do a 35% royalty instead of the higher 70% royalty. So that means that on 99 cents, you're making like 35 cents per book. And then of course, if there are any other things involved, it can be a lot less. Or if conversion rates are down from, the US dollar to another currency, then that can certainly affect it. Which does stink, but also I know, your sales go up, your other book sales go up, your reviews go up, which overall gives you a bigger place on the marketplace. So there are reasons for doing that, but it certainly does stink when that happens. Let's see. So if you have any questions, let me know. I think I covered all my email questions and most of our publishing news, I think, as far as what's going on right now. As I said, there's always updates happening. We're going into the Christmas sales season, which means that it'll start to get a little busier out in the marketplace. I do know for anyone who is starting out in Amazon ads, Brian Cohen does have his Amazon ad challenge coming up. That will be starting, I think it was October 11th is what I saw for that to start. So this is his free 10-day challenge where he goes over the very basics of Amazon ads, how to set up ads, find keywords. I will say it's time intensive for anyone who has done it. You really do have to plan to spend an hour or two a day on ads or on learning and videos and participating. With that said, I have a lot of people who are on the program or who I've worked with have done the ad challenge. It's a really great foundational knowledge of, how the Amazon ad system works, which is fantastic that it gives you that opportunity. And for a lot of people, it works well. It's a long game in the sense that, you're not going to get it overnight. It does take a little while to kind of learn that system. And it does take a lot of time and effort. The methods that Brian used tend to be lower cost in what you're spending in ads, but higher time. But if you have the time to invest, or you really just want to have, foundational knowledge of what is in the ad dashboard, what the different terms mean and different things like that, I will say that this is a fantastic program. And I really highly recommend it for that. And so I know that's coming up again October 11th for his ad challenge. So would recommend that if you're looking into it. I think that's really it. We've got some other great conferences coming up. As you guys probably know, conference season is kind of in the spring for authors and writers, and then in the fall. So I know digital conferences alone, Tara Alamany is doing her Publish with Purpose, which will be coming up very soon, and I will be participating in that one as a speaker. There is another fiction authors online conference that's coming up. I will personally be at the Hampton Roads Writers Conference in November. So if you're in Virginia, I'd love to see you there. That conference is coming up. A really big conference, 20 books to 50K conference in Vegas is one of the largest author conferences. Craig Martell, who's run those for the last couple of years, has said this is going to be his last year. And so it's going to be a big one, I do believe. Pretty low cost on that, although I will say, of course, you're staying in Vegas and all of those things. That is a week-long conference. It starts on Monday and it goes through Friday. So that is a long conference, but it is a really great conference. A lot of big names will be there, which is always fun. Kate's asking, it seems like so many Christmas books are coming out early. I don't have any new ones, but should I promote my 2 old ones? Absolutely. I was talking to a publisher about this yesterday. If you are looking at promoting your books for Christmas, the Christmas sales season typically starts mid-October and it runs through December 15th. That is typically when people stop buying their Christmas books. So if you have a Christmas title that you would like to launch or promote, October 15th through November 15th is really your window of when the time to do that is for. So I would say start getting your ads ready. Your time is now. And also, if you have a book that's just very giftable, children's and teen books, if you have a book that's like a cookbook or a standalone that could be very giftable or ties into history, that is October 15th to November or December 15th is really the big time where you can make sales online. Sales in stores go through actual Christmas Eve. We all have those shoppers, or we've had those years. But so that is one of the things that you definitely want to look at, is now is a great time to be promoting and advertising. Oh, that's great. And Walt will be presenting at Moonlight and Magnolias in October. Last time I went, I think that was held right around Atlanta. So that'll be a fun one. And Moonlight and Magnolias is really focused on romance writing and authors. That's a fun conference. I went a couple years ago. That's where I met Walt at. Yeah, and Kevin's making a great point about, having your, we call it our loss leader, your introduction book, where if you are going to do a low priced book or a discount book, typically going in with your first book in series or an intro book to get people onto your list that you can then market higher ticket items, or a lot of series will see a free or 99-cent intro into the series or into the world of your books, so that you can then hook the reader and they will want to buy the rest of your books at higher prices, like $3.99, $4.99. So that way you can actually sell through at a higher rate and make your royalties there, which is a fantastic way to really make more profit if you're an author with a larger backlist or a series. I'm getting a lot of questions about the Vegas conference. It is 20 books It's from 20 books to 50K. The actual name is 20 Books Vegas, and that is their website, just 20 Books Vegas. I'm not an affiliate in any way. I just went. I think it's a great conference. It's got a lot going on there. So if you're in that area, that's a great conference. And I think this year will be a great year again, knowing that it's Craig's last. They're still going to do the conference, but it'll be a different team running it. So 20booksvegas.com for details on that one. Have there ever been a conference in the Villages, Florida? There are a ton of readers and authors here. I don't know about the Villages specifically, Larry, but there are a lot of conferences in Florida. There is the Florida, it's FAPA, Florida Authors Publishers Association has a conference every year. I believe that was closer to Orlando last year, but there's that one. There are multiple conferences in and around Florida, so you can certainly look. The best thing that I can say is look up your city and just say writers conference and see what comes up, or see if there's a local writers group or guild and find it that way, because conferences are fun, and it's fun to travel to them because it's kind of like getting away and out of your head. But also you will absolutely find conferences closer to home if that's more convenient for you. What if my Christmas title is 3 years old? No one cares, Jane. That's the best thing. Christmas is Christmas. Unless your title is dated in the sense of it is about, I don't know, Christmas paint trends in 2020, and now it's 2023, so therefore it's dated. That I wouldn't mark it, but anything, if it is an Advent, a Christmas themed book, people specifically look for Christmas or winter themed books to read at the end of October into November and December. They want to get in the mood. They want to, it's just more appealing because we're all feeling very jolly. So any type of Christmas book or holiday title will sell. And I have promoted books that have come out 10 years, as long as the market and the genre is still on trend. I think absolutely. Now, if your cover looks like it came out in 1990 and you're trying to promote it, you probably won't have much success, but I know what book you're talking about, and that is still absolutely marketable. So I would be promoting it. Let's see, if I have award stickers for books, can I ask bookstores that carry the book to put them on the books? I assume I will supply them with the stickers. So Eileen, you can, but sometimes they don't like to, depending on what the award is. So in most cases, it depends on if you're asking if you can ship them and have their staff put them on, or if you're asking if you can stop by and put them on the book. So are you creating work for them or not? So in some cases, you can certainly say, the book has recently won an award. I have many stickers. Would you like them to be placed on the book? So if you're local, you can say, I've recently won this award. I have stickers. Would you like me to stop by and put them on the books you have in your stock? Absolutely. And they may say yes or no. They may say, no, that's all right. They may say, sure, I don't know. And if you're asking whether or not you should mail them to them, again, the same idea. I've recently won an award. I do have an award stickers. Would you like any sent to you to be placed on the books or to be sold with the books? And then just let them say yes or no. Some bookstores are like, yeah, absolutely fine, especially if it's no work for them. Some bookstores will say no because they don't recognize the award. They don't think it'll sell, any number of things. It really depends. It's personal from the buyer and whoever's, working with you there. So that's how I would ask personally. All right, you guys, it is 11 o'clock. I've got to go and grab a kid. So it has been fabulous. Thank you for joining me here. Next week, we will be back with Wendy H. Jones, and Wendy runs a huge Facebook group. I think it's up over 80,000 members at the moment. And it is, I'm going to get this wrong, but women writers, publishers, agents. It's a woman focused group, but she runs this really big Facebook group for writers. And we are going to be talking to Wendy about, number one, how she kept this book or this group active, how she grew it, how can authors use social media, particularly Facebook, to grow their reading audiences. But we'll also be talking to Wendy about how to play well in a writers Facebook group. If you're in a Facebook group for writers or promotion or different things, how can you as an author get more out of that group? How can you use it to promote yourself but not get kicked out, and all the good things. So we'll be talking a lot about social media next week. Wendy also does quite a bit on TikTok, so I'm sure she'll have some tips for us there. So watch for us then, same time, same place, newshelves.com/FAF, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we will see you then. Bye, everybody.